Last week, a mass shooting in Connecticut saw close to 30 people, 20 of which were young students aged 5 to 6, murdered. The National Rifle Association has since put violent video games and the developers behind them into public scrutiny, turning the blame on an industry that's only out to provide entertainment to a wide mainstream medium. Now, I understand that violent video games are definitely not the best way to describe entertainment, but it's a way of exploring a world we'll never get to experience firsthand. It's a virtual reality of sorts, and for the most part, it should stay that way. I feel from a gamer's standpoint that it's absolutely wrong to put all the blame on the video game industry when you really should not be looking only at the players, but also the parents. In a number of the mass shootings, the assailants were already diagnosed with prior medical disorders that would affect the way their brains work in comparison to a normal, healthy individual. Adam Lanza, the killer named in the Sandy Hook shooting, had antisocial disorder, as well as Asperger's and a personality disorder, according to his brother Ryan. He was fiercely intelligent but socially awkward. Family and friends knew him as an already weird kid who was deeply disturbed and lived off of violent video games and in a large house already filled with guns. His parents had gone through a divorce which would have deeply traumatized him in an already fragile state of mind. The killer in the Virginia Tech shooting of 2007, Sung Hoi Cho, was diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder, major depression, and selective mutism, and expressed thoughts of suicide and homicide. Keep in mind, he was diagnosed in middle school, possibly prior to any knowledge of violent video games having ties to being the fuel that started the fire that was the Virginia Tech massacre. Games like Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and Grand Theft Auto have had the spotlight shone on them for years due to their controversy in terms of violence and how far players can go, but I feel the reality is that we as the players have a responsibility to look elsewhere for our entertainment, and I feel the parents must take a larger responsibility in guiding their kids towards more age-appropriate titles. Age is being overlooked, as ESRB ratings don't even seem to be followed as strongly as they used to be. So either video game sellers must bulk up their restrictions in selling to parents with kids, or the ESRB ratings may need a slight adjustment to catch up with the changes in our industry. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying violent video games are not completely to blame for these shootings, but there's definitely a strong correlation in a lot of these stories that surface involving shootings of this caliber. What I'm saying is that there are other factors that need to be looked at, and pointing fingers in one direction just isn't going to cut it. You have to look at the families, the conditions of the ones responsible, maybe even perhaps the rules of the NRA in this case, who seem quick to bounce the blame onto violent video games when guns are being sold freely across the United States like lottery tickets. Stricter gun laws need to be put in place so disturbed individuals don't have that easy access, and parents need to also be tightening the leash on what they should be allowing their kids to play. I'm not an advocate for violent video games, but being a player of games all my life, and one who has played many a violent video game in his time, I can tell you that there's more to the story than just violent video games being the fuse that lights a chain reaction. If that were the case, we'd have ourselves massacres all around the world. I'm William Key, and this has been a gamer's opinion to this story.